Well, I hope you're ready for some form-fitting polyester gay Clark Kent from season 1 of Smallville, because it looks like you're going to be the bottom of my Cheerios pyramid after all.
Welcome to Sleepover Cinema, where we analyze the movies, shows, and music that created the collective unconscious of those who see themselves in Chris Colfer, regardless of their gender or sexuality. I'm Hannah Leach.
And I'm Audrey Leach, someone who enjoys seeing Jonathan Groff and Leah Michele together in any context. And today we're lurking around the choir room of McKinley High, far past our relevance, much like its alumni.
We're going to explore the good, the bad, and the nonsensical aspects of a show that perfectly encapsulated the spirit of our high school era, but not necessarily an accurate depiction of show choir.
It is finally time, after years of deliberation. Today we are talking about Glee.
People always tell you to follow your dreams.
I'd like to take over Glee Club.
You want to captain the Titanic too?
What they don't tell you
My gold stars are a metaphor for me being a star.
is how much it can hurt. Some people have it.
Very talented.
Really?
I would know I'm very talented too.
Some people don't.
You think this is hard? I'm living with hepatitis. That's hard.
But every star has to start somewhere.
I don't want to be the guy that just drives around throwing eggs at people.
That was you?
From Ryan Murphy, the creator of Nip Tuck, comes a new series about the pursuit of Glee.
Is she gonna diva out after every rehearsal?
Probably.
Glee. Special preview Tuesday, May 19th on Fox.
You know we couldn't let this show end without talking about Glee.
Yeah. Glee is the
It's been a
gayest
looming
show.
threat.
Like, after having rewatched episodes, I'm just like, how do they
get away with it?
It's really astounding. This is on network television, and the people, like all the straight people in the middle of the country, just all the families, all the parents, all the kind of people that ended up involved in watching Glee, they really have no idea of like how ingenious what's going on is, or how stupid. Like, they really don't know how stupid it is or how like campy it is.
I know,
because they can't know everything that we know. You have to live in a very specific pipeline to know everything that we know in all quadrants about this show.
Well, it's like the in-group talk with some of this too. Like, I will also say this is purely a coincidence, but this is our first episode of Pride Month, so we're celebrating Pride with Glee. I just want to ask, because I don't actually know, this was your first West Hollywood Pride. What was it like?
It's kind of easier than New York Pride in a lot of ways, because the density, it's like you've got the same amount of people, but they've got more room to exist. So, yeah, but it was more of like a street fair type of thing also.
Yes.
Like, there was a Ferris wheel.
Oh my God, there was a Ferris wheel?
Yeah, and there was like multiple stages, and like Kesha played, and like Keke Palmer, Trixie Mattel.
Oh my God. Wait, you know who is leading Chicago Pride this year? JoJo Siwa.
Oh, yeah. I did see that, actually.
Which I truly cannot believe, but it is pretty funny.
It's very funny. Yeah, I did spot kind of a lot of people. Hunter saw Amanda Bynes. I saw Colton from The Bachelor, who came out as gay and then had this whole like other show about him being gay after the fact. But
right.
I saw him.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a lot of energy. It like sitting in my room right here, I could hear, like, it was loud.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That makes sense, though.
Yeah, well, just because the parade is, like, half a block away. So, passing half a block away. So, it was really, really loud.
I went to Pride Night at the Chicago Aquarium. It was cute. I touched some sturgeon and some starfish, and they were all gay. And that's it.
Before we get into this, though, we're still asking for voice messages for our final episode. I've got maybe like 6 so far, and they've been really cute, but keep them coming because it's quickly approaching. There is one more episode after this one, and then the finale.
Audrey and I, on an almost daily basis, are like, so it's really ending. Like, it's a big change for us. We've been doing it for so long. I'm having dreams about it. I'm thinking about it constantly, trying to figure out what's next. I'm pretty heavily considering, like, trying to sell ceramics. So buy a ceramic piece of mine at some point, and yeah, it'll be good. Okay, so we're gonna get into the facts.
So the IMDb synopsis for Glee is: a group of ambitious misfits try to escape the harsh realities of high school by joining a Glee club headed by a passionate Spanish teacher. So Glee ran for 6 seasons, running from 2009 to 2015, which is like our exact like middle school, high school years.
That was the year I started high school, 2009 to 2015, which was the year Audrey graduated.
Yeah. Glee was created by Ryan Murphy, the overpowered gay himself. But he is most known for Glee, American Horror Story, Pose, 911, Feud, American Crime Story, The Politician, Scream Queens. And before Glee, his main credit was Nip Tuck. Brad Falchuk is Ryan's working partner. Literally every single show that you watch that's a Ryan Murphy show, you're going to see Brad Falchuk on there. And then Ian Brennan, pretty much the same thing, but I feel like more exclusively to Glee, because isn't Ian Brennan the one who was in show choir, and it ended up being like a collaboration between...
Yes. He had written a screenplay about a show choir, and then Ryan like took it and reworked it into a TV show. Actually, speaking of whether he was in show choir or not, I kind of went down a little bit of a rabbit hole with this, but because Audrey and I are always griping about the fact that show choir is not accurately portrayed in Glee, I just wanted to see where these men were coming from with their source materials. So Ian Brennan in all of these interviews is like, I was in show choir. He went to Prospect High School in Mount Prospect, Indiana, and he had been in show choir. But as far as I could find on the internet, it wasn't competitive, and it also just like wasn't really documented on the internet, which was weird.
I mean, that was probably in the 90s. I feel like a lot of show choir went,
or 80s,
is like
even
gone.
Ryan Murphy went to Warren Central High School in Indiana, and their choir program, as I discovered, has its own website. It is very well put together, and they have a girls show choir, a junior show choir, and basically a varsity show choir. However, when you watch their show choir, it looks exactly like Glee. Like, it's not right. Like, it's not traditional show choir, but it's like kids all in red t-shirts standing on risers with like overhead lights with individual microphones, and it's not quite a cappella group. It just is Glee.
Okay, so the cast: Chris Colfer as Kurt, Jane Lynch as Sue, Leah Michelle as Rachel Berry, Matthew Morrison as Will Schuster, Kevin McHale as Artie Abrams, Naya Rivera as Santana, Jenna Ushkowitz as Tina Cohen Chang, Amber Riley as Mercedes Jones, Mark Saling as Noah Puckerman, Heather Morris as Brittany, Cord Overstreet as Sam Evans, Darren Criss as Blaine Anderson, Harry Shum Jr. as Mike Chang, Corey Monteith as Finn Hudson, Jayma Mays as Emma Pillsbury, Diana Agron as Quinn Fabray.
And these are like characters that consistently are in this show. That's not really the extended cast even. That's like people you're going to see every time.
Yeah. I just started writing like a list off the top of my head of guest stars because there's so many. Idina Menzel, Carol Burnett, Sarah Jessica Parker, Gwyneth Paltrow, Kristen Chenoweth, Whoopi Goldberg, Kate Hudson, Jonathan Groff, Matt Bomer, Olivia Newton-John, Josh Groban, Lindsay Lohan, Neil Patrick Harris, and 5 billion
John
other
Stamos.
people. Yeah.
On Rotten Tomatoes, the critic score is 70% and the audience score is 72%. And on Metacritic, it has a 75. This is what Variety had to say after the premiere evening of Glee. The title of the review was, "The promise and energy seen with the debut of Glee last spring is gone in 2 additional hours." And this is what they say. Producer Ryan Murphy's look at romance and longing through a high school glee club divided between the hormone-hyped teenagers and their equally dazed and confused teachers keeps coming back to awkward triangular relationships. Will also finds his show choir program under siege from the tyrannical cheer squad counselor played by Jane Lynch, who chews through her material so relentlessly as to be fitfully funny, but usually just plain annoying. Glee occasionally bursts to life thanks to the occasional incandescent moment, such as the gay kid, Chris Colfer, another wonderful discovery, who wrestles with cruel teasing, an emerging identity, and a gruff dad. And pretty much every time Michelle unleashes her soaring Broadway belt. Yet those interludes simply reinforce the sense that a whole lot of talent, both behind and in front of the cameras, is being squandered by the show's jokey, cartoonish, wildly uneven tone.
Common Sense Media gave it 4 stars and said it was appropriate for ages 14 and up. This edgy but quirky comedy's music and message will win teens over. Parents need to know that Glee is an edgy teen comedy featuring a diverse cast, positive messages of cooperation and acceptance, and topics such as homophobia, bullying, substance abuse, teen sex, death, and other envelope-pushing topics. There's some occasional iffy language, bitch, damn, hell, some derogatory terms such as cripple and fairy, and occasional references to genitals. There's also a bit of name dropping when it comes to brands, and the cast performs songs by an endless number of popular artists ranging from Aretha Franklin and Frank Sinatra to Britney Spears, Amy Winehouse, and Madonna. The combination of offbeat characters, fantastic performances, and a willingness to take on controversial topics in a sensitive manner make this show a winner despite its many flaws. Some critics have complained about Glee's uneven narrative and its over-reliance on song and dance numbers at the expense of story development, but its hip sensibility has music-loving teens buzzing.
Okay, so I just put together a couple little factoids just to show how much of a success Glee was. So in 2011, Glee generated $2 million in advertising revenue per half hour. In 2012, the show was the 4th highest revenue earning show of the year, with $2.83 million ad revenue per half hour, behind Two and a Half Men, The X Factor, and American Idol. Chris Colfer, Lea Michele, Matthew Morrison, and Jane Lynch all won Emmys for their roles on the show. In over 6 seasons, the cast of Glee landed 207 songs on the Billboard Hot 100. Their 113th entry beat Elvis Presley's record of 108 entries, officially making them the record holder for most entries in Billboard's then 54-year-old history.
Mm-hmm. And they're valid.
My whole thing and like why it took me so long to watch Glee is that I was like, why would I want to just listen to like kind of bad covers of top 40 songs? But I think I was clearly in the minority with that one because a lot of people were living for it. So getting into the cultural impact of Glee, it's really hard to quantify because it was so massive. But I did find just this one little chunk that was speaking to what Audrey said earlier about like how they got away with this level of gay shit on network TV. This was an article written this past May 24, by Allie Daisy King. And the title is 15 Years Later, Why is Glee So Popular? And this is just a section I pulled. Being so young when a lot of Gen Z first watched the show, we were also very impressionable. This show was groundbreaking in its depiction of queer characters, and I believe this has subconsciously permeated through my generation's mostly positive and accepting view of queerness. It is worth remembering that when Glee first aired in 2009, just 33% of Americans supported same-sex marriage. Even among millennials, Glee's target audience, just 51% were in favor at the time. I believe that shows like Glee helped to change this, which I do agree with. The gay marriage and the cis gay equality movement really rocket launched in that time. Do you have any other cultural impact things to say? I mean, it's like everything.
I mean, they went on tour. You didn't get into that. I didn't go, but it's kind of like the High School Musical tour. It's like a very similar concept. And I'm sure for like real Gleeks out there, there's like just piles upon piles upon piles of lore and rumors and just like small details that only they would know about what went on that tour. Like,
Yeah.
There's so much shipping. Like, ships are just such a huge part of this show, both for the characters and for their real life selves, because a lot of these people did have relationships with each other. So, like, the show and the real lives overlapped. And so, obviously, that just creates a ground for really messy fans.
The amount of, like, really intense, like, almost cyberbullying, but just, like, interactions that Chris Colfer had with fans especially were really, really egregious. And he talks in interviews now about having PTS Glee, which, like,
yeah,
I love Chris Colfer.
How could he not? How could he not? Like, people were projecting everything onto him.
His thing now is that he writes novels, and what I found out today,
the Land of Stories.
Yeah, is that he originally was offered a deal to write an autobiography, and he was like, I'm 19, can I write a novel instead? And they were like, yeah, go for it.
Another person who I see out on these streets.
Really?
Yeah, I told you. I've seen him.
Right. I'm jealous. I love him.
This one
He's
bar,
actually like
Schmitty's. In more recent years, post Glee ending, although Corey Monteith, as we know, passed away during Glee, Mark Saling passed away, and Naya Rivera also passed away under very different circumstances that cannot be compared in any way. Actually, all three of them are very different. And in addition to that, Melissa Benoist, I never know how to say her name, and Blake Jenner, there was like this news story that broke out about like domestic abuse between them. And then honestly, the Lea Michele part, it feels completely separate from all that type of shit. But in 2020, there were like all these allegations against her about how hard she was to work with and that she was racist. And this is like summer 2020, Black Lives Matter. All celebrities are getting outed for their...
No white girl is safe.
Yeah, no white girl is safe. And this was before she got cast as Fanny Bryce in Funny Girl. And so because Beanie had flopped, you know, people were really pushing for a Lea Michele casting. And I think that also motivated the outpour of distress against her as a bad person. Anyway, yeah, the Glee curse, they made a really shitty docu thing about this phenomenon, but it's cheap. It's not great for the Glee cast. I mean, Lea Michele is actually doing really well personally, but like nowadays.
Yeah.
But she certainly had a kind of long period of nothing for a while after Glee, and now she's had like her reemergence. Seems like people are tolerating her.
Yeah, definitely. Something went right for her, I guess, or her becoming a meme made her bankable somehow. Okay, so we created a non-definitive list of just some iconic Glee moments that popped into our minds.
Because we're not getting to like most of it.
There's so much, and we really just can't go through all of it. I hadn't seen Glee until like 2022, so a lot of the gags and goops of this show hit me recently. So firstly, when Karofsky really randomly tried to end his life, I was shocked. When Finn describes Kurt's decor as F-wordy, and in the gay way, not the other way, and then his dad comes and defends him.
There's this late Glee moment where Santana is in the hallway and she like drags Kurt for like 2 minutes straight without stopping, and it's just like it's like a break of show. Like it is actually bizarrely long and way too harsh, like way too mean. What really did it me in watching Glee, because I fully got to the end, like I've gotten all through season 6, Sue becomes obsessed with Klaine as a concept, and she decides that when they're broken up, this is like in season 6, I think they're broken up, and they're of course always inexplicably at the school. Like these people need to leave the fucking school. She sets up like a fake jigsaw from the Saw movies, like Saw trap, to try to get them back together. And you don't know who's behind it technically. but you do at first, and her whole mission becomes successful and they do get back together, but she's got this like garage that is like a shrine to Klain, and Jane Lynch is hilarious.
I know. I watched the clip because I hadn't seen it, and she described their relationship as involving, quote, self-congratulatory sodomy.
Also iconic, anything involving Britney and Britney Spears. Anything in that realm, because Heather Morris does Britney choreography really well, because she is a dancer. She wasn't even supposed to be a character on this show. She ultimately became a character. When Will finds out that Terry was lying about being pregnant, that's not even like funny. It's just like really serious. It becomes funny because it's in Glee, so it's like automatically kind of funny, but it's a real scene, and it's kind of...
It seems like it's gonna escalate into a domestic for sure, but it doesn't technically.
Sue's sister passes away at some point during the show, and that's a very like sad, earnest moment. And that's the thing with Glee, is like the whiplash of earnest to absolute nonsense is constant. And it's a lot to take. Like, for example, Santana coming out scene, that's a real scene. Like, it feels very real compared to the rest of the show, and it was definitely impactful. I know there's like a lot of like lesbians out there who saw Santana and Britney and were like, oh, that can be me, because they were very feminine. But it's kind of one of those things of like like accidental representation, or like representation because we didn't have a plot type of thing that like I find really funny, but then it becomes important to someone. Getting slushied, that obviously happens all the time. I don't know what school has slushies. This seems like a very easy problem to solve. Get rid of the slushies.
So true.
The amount that they sing Don't Stop Believing.
Yes.
That's something to behold.
Glee wrought upon us an era of unnecessary mashups that took a decade to get out of.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the effect on culture, we'll get into that. Like, real life is crazy. Phineas, as in Billie Eilish's brother, is in season 6, and he has long hair, and he looks really cringy, and he moves in a really cringy way, and it's just funny.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah. And then Bert having cancer, Bert doing Single Ladies, that's Kurt's dad. Kurt dressing straight, that's a moment. And then, unfortunately, we didn't decide to cover any particular musical production episode, like when they do Grease, when they do Rocky Horror, but just know that those are worth watching.
So, as Audrey was talking about earlier, the shipping was a very big part of being a Gleek, and I highly doubt that anyone who listens to this show doesn't know what shipping is, but if you don't know, it's like being really enthusiastic about a particular fictional couple and that may or may not be together in universe.
Right. And really the main ones are Finn and Rachel, Blaine and Kurt, Santana and Brittany. I think those are the main three, because all the other relationships are like tertiary characters, so they just don't get much airtime, or they're so incestuous that you can't even remember that it happened.
Yeah, agreed.
Like, everyone's pretty much been in a relationship with everyone for at least 2 episodes, or kissed, or done something.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, in terms of passion, Finn and Rachel, Blaine and Kurt, Santana and Brittany. That's my stance.
And for each of these pairings, you could probably find like several terabytes of like gift sets on Tumblr glorifying each and every one of them.
Yeah. Yeah. Artie also has a lot of relationships. Puck has a lot of relationships. Sam has a lot. Mercedes doesn't have a lot. But there's a moment, I think in season 4 or 5, where Mercedes and Sam are dating when they live in New York. Maybe it starts in Ohio. But I found that so impossible to buy. I was like, there's just not one part of me. And not because of like who they are demographically. Based on personality, these two would not. They just wouldn't. There's Terry and Will. There's Emma and Will. Will's also got his own thing.
His own shit going on.
Yeah.
That's the thing is, like, we could deep dive on almost all of these characters because they're so fleshed out.
Yeah, there's way too much material on these.
Yeah, like, there's really not a single character on this list that I feel like isn't fully fleshed out, except maybe Sam, but I also hate him for some reason. So
I don't even know if I would consider them fleshed out. I would just say that we see them a lot. It's like, I don't really feel like I know them. Not all of them. I just feel like I know their presence, but I don't really know who they are.
It's like they're classmates of ours.
Yeah.
In a way. Yeah.
Okay, our memories. Because we were both involved in Ohio theater and show choir, it's weird because, like, no one I knew was, like, an obsessed fan of Glee.
A lot of it is like, if you were in show choir or in any of these things, like, it was too much. It was like holding a mirror up to you in one way. Like, I feel like I don't really know many, like, when I think of Kurt as like a gay icon, he is, but at the same time I can't really think of any like gay boys I knew who would
felt
like
that way.
Yes, it's very like when white gays hate other white gays.
Or not even
like,
hate, but like ignore.
Yeah. Like it has that vibe for sure.
Yeah, no, I think that is very much it. It's like you just kind of ignore the phenomenon because it's like, I don't know. I wish that I had more memories of what I thought of Glee because like at the time, I do remember watching like probably the show premiere because it first aired after something else that was big. American Idol, maybe something big.
I am like
the Super Bowl.
They did get an after Super Bowl slot, but it wasn't the premiere.
Yeah,
it was a different episode. But I almost want to say that I watched the first episode in choir.
We weren't like I wasn't against it. I just wasn't a fan that was gonna watch every week. Because I was just so busy at rehearsal. Like, I just couldn't. I was too busy living that life, as Charlie XCX would say.
That also, the year that it came out was, I guess it was 2009, but it was around the time that I didn't make show choir the first time. Mm-hmm. And so by watching it, I felt like I was admitting some sort of, like, weakness, which is so like 2009 of me, but
actually I should consider that. I really wasn't even living that life yet. When the show started, I was just in middle school and I just don't think I cared that much for whatever reason. Like I just wasn't watching. I think the show felt maybe a little old for me even.
Yeah.
And by the time the show ended in 2015, that's the year I graduated high school. It was terrible. It was so bad that it was like a joke.
I also, I mean, again, as a Tumblr user, saw a lot of stuff on there. I was really, like, dazzled when Darren Criss got casted on the show.
Because we were invested.
Yes, because, of course, we were viewing a very Potter musical, as any good girl or gay in 2011 was doing.
And feeling like you're the only person on the planet who knows about it when it's got like millions of views.
Yes. I checked today and it has 19 million views.
Okay, that's actually not as much as I would think.
As listeners to the pod may or may not remember my insomnia phase from like 2 years ago, but Glee and Bob Ross were my make me pass out shows. So I saw and also didn't see a lot of Glee when I watched it. And I gave up when like Unique joined the group because and like not in a transphobic way, just in a I can't handle this way.
When they start bringing in the new people, it's like, I'm so tired. Like, I can't get invested because either let them go, let the original cast go and make us love the new people, or don't give us new people. And they never could make that decision.
I'm also like, why do they even make them graduate in the first place? Like, we'll talk more about that in the second half. I also have a take that I don't know if it fits better here. I'll fit it in the second half, but it has to do with the POV of the creators and the writer. We still have a shitload to talk about, so we're gonna go prepare for that.
The episodes we covered: the pilot, obviously, season 1, episode 22, Journey to Regionals; season 2, episode 6, Never Been Kissed; season 2, episode 14, Blame It on the Alcohol. I found a different name for it, but it is called Blame It on the Alcohol. I've also seen it as the Rachel Berry House Party Trainwreck Extravaganza. Season 2, episode 18, Born This Way. Season 3, episode 22, Goodbye. That is the true, to me, end of Glee. Honestly.
Yeah.
Season 4, episode 4, The Breakup. That is excellence that just so happens to occur after the end of Glee. And finally, the finale.
That's so accurate. It's like the epilogue to Glee ending is that episode. I watched all these episodes in one day, and I woke up in the middle of the night last night just thinking about Rachel Berry belting the verse of Don't Stop Believin'. So I'm sorry to place this curse upon your household, but now it's your turn to go do the same thing. So go buckle the hell in.
If you've never watched Glee, what a treat. Honestly, it is a treat.
That's how I felt. Yeah, like when I got to watch it from the beginning, Audrey was always like, you got to just do it. And then once I was doing it, I was like, oh yeah, this is good.
Grade A entertainment, as absolutely weird as it gets. It's really fun to watch.
Yeah.
So go do it.
If you're ready to catch up on what you missed on Glee, well, guess what? It's your time. So I just wanted to say, before we get into this, I kind of teased at the end of the last half that I just kind of have a statement about this show. And as someone from Ohio who is in show choir, who's also a woman, and
has been
feel like who has been a lifelong hag. Let's get that straight. There is like a certain thing, and Audrey, I wonder what you'll think about this because you are an LA dweller and are around like industry people a billion times more than me. There's this kind of like weird thing to this show where all the men behind it, at least 2 of them, are from the Midwest, but they kind of like keep the subject matter and like the culture of the place like at an arm's length away, and it's almost like they're shitting on it, and I'm like, why are you so embarrassed?
The lack of specificity in place, but I feel that is so influenced by the fact that this is shot entirely in LA.
I don't know. I really hate it when people are like, defend Ohio. It's like, we don't need to defend Ohio, but I just feel like I can hear the insecurity of like little gay boys who were bullied in the Midwest in the way that some of this stuff is written, and I'm just like,
really, the pilot is the closest you're gonna get to feeling like you're in a place, and that's because the pilot is shot more like a movie and has a grounded sensibility for the most part. I mean, truly the pilot is the closest you're ever going to get to feeling like you're watching real people. And after that, you're you're out there on your own. It very much becomes like a Hollywood production, like pretty quickly. Because when they break into, we're going to have a long talk about diegesis, because when they start breaking diegesis all the time, which is normal, but like they do it in new and more inventive ways as the show goes on, and it becomes like a Hollywood production number that's happening in the mind. And so the show becomes from what was like a somewhat grounded diegetic show choir number that they were singing, it has become a high budget, really unattainable mental, basically mind trip that characters go
like
on
a
all
fantasy
the time.
sequence,
and they do that because they kind of have to, if they want to up the ante past the means of an Ohio show choir, which they always do. Then they have to have the people tripping all the time. I mean, literally, Brittany goes to the dentist and gets like laughing gas, and that's why her like Brittany numbers happen. Like it's
like they know what they want to do and they'll find a roundabout way to justify it.
They'll be like, we need to do a Brittany, like we need to do a blank song. How are we going to reverse engineer the plot so that we can do that?
It's very the ends justify the means with Glee. Okay, with that being said, why don't we just like actually get into the episodes?
Yes.
Okay, so the pilot. It was aired on May 19th, 2009. Optimistic high school teacher Will Schuester tries to rekindle his own passion for the performing arts while reinventing McKinley High School's Glee Club and challenging a group of outcasts to realize their star potential. I think it's really weird that this show starts with watching cheerleaders.
Yeah, me too. What I'm guessing is that was an element from the original script that traveled over, because, and it's very relevant. We made a feature documentary that has a whole portion of it that's dedicated to the budget issues and budget cuts that have to happen and happen so often to show choirs. And so this whole versus mentality of jocks, cheerleaders, and show choir basically isn't that far. Like, it's not that far from reality, because most Midwestern schools would choose their sports probably over a small arts program, but we were just lucky in that they are held at because of how like wealthy our town was for high school, like they didn't have to choose, which was great.
Yeah.
But it happens all the time. So yeah, initially I was like, it is weird how much they prioritize the cheerleaders, but then Sue is such a main character.
The budget cut plot line is such a easy premise tool to create. Yeah, to create animosity, so it's kind of convenient in that way.
Well, one issue that you basically just have to let go of at the very beginning of Glee is that always going to sound like 1,000 people when there's almost no one on stage.
Yeah.
Like, they're never going to hold mics. They're just not.
Yeah.
Almost never. Because they don't have to. You're lip syncing, so it's fine. But
yes,
it is kind of hard to let go of at first, because even when they're singing like "Sit Down, You're Rocking the Boat," I'm like, yes, this is kind of like lame or whatever because there's like 5 of them, but they sound really good. Like, you guys haven't seen a show choir that really needs help.
You haven't seen what we've seen.
The problem isn't
before.
The problem is never passion. The problem is lack of passion. Like the kids in real life, the kids are bored. They're flat. They sound like they don't want to be there. But they don't have that problem. So
like they're applying themselves, and that's 80% of the battle.
Yeah, like when Will Schuester applies notes, it's like, or gives them notes, it's like, no, they actually were singing at a TV show level. Like, you actually don't need to say that, but sure.
There were a couple really good jokes in this episode. My favorite one, I think, was when Rachel Berry was talking about how her mom was like a surrogate, and that she was like, they mixed my dad's sperm together and used a turkey baster. To this day, we aren't sure who's my real dad. And it's a picture, like the couple is like a black guy and a white guy. And that was just funny to me. Like, I did chuckle to myself at that one.
Do you notice how the conflict for Finn is the Troy Bolton conflict?
Yes, of course. But then with some dead dad mixed in there too.
It's just funny. Yeah. I'm like, that was really in the zeitgeist at the time. Like,
Ryan Murphy claimed at the time to have never seen High School Musical.
Sure.
Before doing this. Sure.
I don't believe you.
That's what she wrote.
You know Kenny Ortega.
I love that Leah Michele begins and ends this series without bangs. She has a deep bangs journey, but starts and ends without them.
That is weird. Another thing that goes across all of Glee that we will talk about is like placement. This whole thing of competition structure, placements.
Yeah.
It's not the same as it is in real life. I understand why they make the changes. It's just easier. But it reminds me of Dance Moms, because Dance Moms also fabricates the way that placements happen, because they're just not very thrilling in reality. Like it's just not.
Another realism thing that drives me insane is when they see Vocal Adrenaline perform, and these girls have their hair out. They have no tights on. Their hair looks so shitty, and I'm like, this is...
I mean...
We would not even be allowed to have...
Like, there are... But you mean because they are being perceived as a good choir?
Yes.
Because, like, if you're, like, a bad choir, like, yeah, the hair might look bad.
Yeah. But, like, that kind of hair out situation, like, we wouldn't even be allowed to do that during rehearsal.
Do you think that the amount of white man rock that was validated in the show Glee made real life directors feel, both ours and others, feel that they had license to do those songs every single year?
To do a Journey medley? You know, that's a really good question, because as I was watching the show, I was like, who are these song choices for? Like, because it seems like they'd be for, like, our parents' age.
Or
not,
a little
like,
younger.
for us.
A little younger than our parents, yeah.
Yeah, probably.
I think it has to. It's really hard to know, like, similar to Dance Moms, where the influence of the show, like, starts and then the influence in real life begins. Like, they feed into each other perfectly. But I have to think, though, because, like, show choir, in my view, well, it evolved really quickly. And I know it used to be, which makes sense, like a lot of disco.
Yeah.
Because if you think of, like, okay, 20 years after disco, when the people who were teens and really young when disco was popular, they would then be the teachers. So it's kind of like there's just a delay. So, like, when our generation are the teachers, we're getting the Kesha shows. Don't you worry about it.
Yeah. There's one thing about Kurt that I love and I also hate, which is that he is not... I love him. He's, like, not a great singer. I think when he's belting, he's pretty good. Yes. But my favorite thing in the pilot is when he's auditioning, and bear with me because this might be bad, but I need to demonstrate what I'm talking about. The song Mr. Cellophane, like, you could look right by me, walk right by me, never know I'm there. He's like, never even knew I
liked
there.
it.
But he says new, like, the way he does his vowel is so weird. But again, I love him. He's like my favorite fictional character.
It was an operatic choice he decided to make to hit the note.
I like that.
No.
Yeah, it's like that. The fact that Puck refers to the show choir as Homo Explosion was really funny to me. And I also liked the thing they did at the end where they're singing Don't Stop Believin', and then, like, Quinn and Puck and all these other people that hadn't joined yet and Jane Lynch were kind of, like, lurking in the corners.
It's like, are they literal villains? Like, what?
I loved it.
Like, this, they're, like, standing in the back. I know they do that a lot on Glee. Like, whoever's the antagonist at the time will be sitting in the audience. I'm like, why do they care? They wouldn't be here.
I know. To wrap up the discussion about the first episode, and this is an overarching comment, just, like, Jane Lynch is also one of my favorite people, especially now that I've seen Best in Show finally and I can think of American Bitch. She's one of my favorites.
She's so much more in on the joke than people think. I'm a simple girl. Like, if you give me, like, a spirited number, like, I'm gonna tear up. You know what I mean? Like, it's very wholesome. Like, they're
Did
very...
you get teared up to Don't Stop Believin'?
They're very cute. Like, it's not even, like, the song. It's really just looking at how young they are and knowing what the fuck is about to happen to them.
Yeah.
It's like, and knowing how tragic so much of it is. It's just really... it's very potent. Like, I really enjoyed the film quality of the pilot and, like, how organic it feels compared to the rest of the show. And, like, Finn and Rachel are cute. I think that if not for the real life relationship, I wouldn't see it so much. He is kind of cute. Like, he is actually. He's kind of a puppy dog. He
is. Yeah. Okay. Next episode. It's the finale of season 1, episode 22, Journey to Regionals, aired on June 8th, 2010. At regionals, the club discovers that the judge list was leaked, and the first group to sing Oral Intensity do a mix of Olivia Newton-John and Josh Groban songs because they are the celebrity guest judges. Determined not to be phased, New Directions goes out and sings their hearts out, but not before Finn admits to Rachel that he loves her. And also, Quinn has her baby.
And let's be clear, it's not oral intensity, it's like aural intensity.
Yes, A-U-R-A-L.
Not oral.
When I was listening to it, I fully thought it was oral intensity. Like tip of the tongue, teeth of the lips.
No, that would be very inappropriate.
Also, this is the episode where Idina Menzel, a.k.a. Rachel Berry's biological mother, abandons her
and
adopts
that is
the
something
baby.
that only a gay man could make happen. Like, I'm just like,
I know.
I'm like, yes, they are the same. This makes sense. I could think of that for sure, but his connections, he had the chutzpah, he had the
charisma, uniqueness, nerve, and talent. Yeah. Yeah.
And that's really just impressive. Like, I can't imagine the amount of phone calls that Ryan Murphy has made to be like, I have to pull this these people. Idea. Yeah.
He's pulled everyone. Every girly, pretty much.
Yeah. Okay, so this episode, right near the beginning, the principal of the school says that there is a show choir governing board. That is a lie.
Yes,
that is not true, at least in Ohio. This episode begins the great journey of teacher-student boundaries being crossed, just in the most simple ways. Like, for example, why are they all sitting in his house? Why? This is not. This does not happen. There's just like an informality with the Glee Club because he like invented it or whatever, or like reinvented it. But it's like, that's not normal. No one's parents would want that. Isn't there like a moment in season 1 where Rachel, there's like an episode where Rachel has a crush on him and like literally tries to like do something about it?
It definitely, and of course, we can't forget the lore, which is that
they actually,
Leah Michele and Matthew Morrison went on a few dates at some point. I think they have a 5-year age difference. It's like not that bad.
Yeah, that's not.
It's not that bad.
But she was young.
Yeah. This was something that I was amused by, which is that the part where Mr. Shu was like, one day you won't remember what solos you did or didn't get.
Like,
bitch. And you'll struggle.
Yeah, I will.
I was like, I remember it all.
Ask me.
I was like, oh, you want to know? I'm like, oh, you want to know who almost got something? Like, I remember it all. And maybe that's partially because you and me also are big documenters. Yeah. And so between the two of us, like, we're gonna know.
Yeah.
And I'm not ashamed. It's good to remember. It's funny.
I find it so sad when people don't remember shit.
I know.
Especially when you're trying to like relate to that or like talk about something funny and then they don't remember it.
Yes.
He's saying cherish these moments because, and I think he's not necessarily referring to himself with that. He's talking about like life, like this is what happened. I mean, it's very similar to
I was just gonna say
the Jeff Clark.
We spend too much time together. Oh,
monologue.
I was thinking of the other thing.
Also that, but like guys, this is one huge plug to watch Full Out. Link in bio, but like
actually though.
Yeah. Because, well, there's this one guy who sadly passed away, actually. But he was a show choir clinician. And he was also a show choir director, but then became a clinician where you go around to different groups and watch their show and then tell them how they can improve. And there was this moment with one of our groups that we were following where he was like, you gotta put it all out there now. Like, this is the moment to leave it on the stage because people move on. It's like you've got this one moment to really make an impression and bring joy because people are going to leave. They're gonna life happens to them and they're not gonna come back. Like, you've got one shot basically, which I mean I kind of enjoy bringing that sense of urgency to it because it's like, if I don't hit this arm movement, someone's gonna die.
I think again There is a Venn diagram between the documentary and Glee, and I think the earnestness is definitely in the middle, but like, if you want to know what this shit is really like, we have the resource for you.
Yep. Also, gotta just shout out the fact Lea Michele got her man Jonathan Groff on this show as quickly as she possibly could. And he got a whole ass solo number singing the lead of Bohemian Rhapsody in parallel action with Quinn giving birth. That's huge airtime for him. He is great representation for a show choir boy. Like, I do feel that.
I agree.
He would be the favorite.
I completely agree. Oh, the world would stop turning. Imagine him in like a Twinsburg group or something. Like, it would be over.
Yeah.
I also just wanted to say, this is just like a little side piece of information. I just read this book about adoption in the US and how the majority of women who give up their babies for adoption in America are white Christian people. And that's Quinn. So that aligned. And I thought that was interesting.
Yeah, there's moments where this show kind of turns into Secret Life of the American Teenager.
And I'm like, bring it on,
like,
baby.
In a serious way. There's so many hot button topics that are touched on in
like
the show.
PSA episodes.
Yeah, like between all the musical shit that's going on, there's like some really serious social issues that are also being discussed, sometimes in an okay way, sometimes in a really irresponsible way. I don't feel this was a good representation for teen pregnancy.
No, it's very like she dusts her hands off and then they never really talk about it again.
Why is Adina breaking and entering the hospital?
I know.
She just walks up and is like, hey, is that your baby? Can I have her?
She's like, can I have that? At least she's fierce.
Journey to regionals. Do they win? No. And they shouldn't. I mean, this is the beginning of their journey.
Yeah.
Their show kind of sucks. Also, you can't enter from the back. That's illegal. Finn tells her that
and they like open with a ballad.
Yeah,
like,
I'm like, this
what?
format is way off. Like, yes, as a show, I understand why you would shake it up because it would be boring. It would be boring to keep portraying the same format every time. But you can't do that. And you're not ever going to have celebrity judges. And if you did have celebrity judges, you can sure as shit bet there would be a table for them. Why are they sitting in the audience?
Yeah. Like at the competition that's hosted at our old high school, like each judge gets an assistant.
I mean, it's a
They're
lot.
sitting up on, it's a whole thing. Like they're sitting up on a riser.
Gotta have a good view.
The production value is high.
Yeah. Meanwhile, Olivia Newton-John is sitting in the audience with everybody else. I'm like, that's not.
Yep.
Season 2, Episode 6, Never Been Kissed, aired November 9th, 2010. Glee Club director Will Schuester announces the second New Directions Boys Against Girls singing competition. He later sees a shaken Kurt Hummel in the hallway. He had been slammed against a locker by school bully Dave Karofsky and takes Kurt to his office to recover. That leaves out huge part of it.
The teens are getting hot and heavy. And they've thought of a way to turn off their sex drives, and it is to picture Coach Beast, who's like portrayed as the very stereotypical like large butch lesbian, to like picture her in like lingerie or like doing other things that would turn them off. I picked this episode because
the Kurt thing
really
also happens, but
yes. Well, really, the best part of this episode is that Kurt meets Blaine for the first time in this episode. He goes to Dalton. Blaine sings Teenage Dream. They hold hands and run down the hallway.
So much happens in this episode.
It's a big episode. So that's why I wanted to do it. I didn't realize it was the Coach Beast humbling one, but then Audrey texted me and was like, this is the Coach Beast one. So
ultimately, to me, though, the highlight of this episode would be Teenage Dream. I mean, that,
yes,
like, it's Kurt and Blaine meeting.
That is the highlight.
I mean, that's
for me.
important
and then
for
also,
the show. More important than the other shit going on.
Yes. And then the cute little conversation they have at the coffee table after with like the other Dalton boys, and everyone is like so not homophobic. It's so cute. We can't not talk about the Coach Beast thing because I had a really funny conversation about it yesterday with Morgan, our friend. And Morgan is a lesbian. And it's relevant because we were driving somewhere and I was like, were you a Glee watcher? And she was like, yes. And I was like, do you remember the Coach Beast episode? And she was like, yeah. And I was like, isn't the whole point that... And then at the exact same time, we both said, she's not a lesbian, she's just ugly. And that is kind of it. It's so weird. Her whole thing is that she finds out all these kids are like thinking of her to like not
ejaculate,
like come or whatever. And the funny thing is that she's like, damn it, this always happens to me. But think of how weird that would actually be. Like, you're a teacher.
No, it's completely fantastical, like the way that this plays out. It wouldn't ever be set, like it wouldn't get around like this. Even if it did, it wouldn't come to this point. Like,
yes, well,
it's like illegal. Like, there's like laws being broken.
Shu is like, they cannot like Beast cannot know that you guys said this ever. And then he's like with the Beast,
it gets so
and she's
much
like,
worse. Oh,
she's like, so what do they say about me? And he's like, you don't want to know. And she's like, yeah, I do. And then he just tells her. And then she's like, I've never been kissed. And then he kisses her. It's so weird.
It's so weird. Also, though, like, I feel like the writers kind of backtracked with their initial characterization of Beast because she does basically transition in the show. Like, she's trans, like, in the show. Yeah. Marie Jones is not trans as far as I know, but the character does.
Wait, that's so crazy because at the end of the show, when in
Beast
the finale, I was like,
with like facial hair.
Because but I was like, I think I'm just tripping. Like, I didn't stop and like zoom in. I was just like, am I problematic? Like, what am I seeing here?
Her being that age at that time, like, it's very possible that someone like that wouldn't know they're trans, like, very easily.
That's very true.
So, yeah. I think it's not the worst, but it's certainly not comfortable. It's kind of another example of like representation that you're not sure even belongs to anyone. You're just like, that's interesting. Like, I'm happy it's there because it's so different for like network television. But
that is so true. Like, that was on primetime Fox.
Yeah.
In 2010.
I did write down one funny thing about that episode. I said, I can't believe they sing Stop in the Name of Love because they thought Beast was ugly.
I know. It doesn't make any sense.
Oh, also, this is the episode. Yeah, this is the episode where Karofsky kisses Kurt in the locker room.
Oh my God.
And
right. Because Kurt had never been kissed either.
Kurt's reaction after being kissed is so like Glenn Close. Like, it's so like Meryl Streep. It's so good.
This is the thing. Chris Colfer's so damn good. Like, his acting is crazy. It's so good.
Season 2, episode 14, Blame It on the Alcohol, premiered February 22nd, 2011. Will has the Glee Club perform a song about underage drinking, but the message might lose impact when they come to school with hangovers. Also, in this episode, Blaine entertains being bisexual because he kisses Rachel in a game of Spin the Bottle. I just love this episode because it's got a lot of fun elements at once.
Yeah.
And it also shows like a more fun side to Rachel Berry's character, like a more like a humanizing episode for her, where basically she's inspired to throw a party that has alcohol at it because she wants to write both sides now. She's like, how am I ever gonna write an iconic song if I haven't lived any life? And they're like, well, you should throw a party. And so she wears this like a mint green 70s dress and has no idea about what alcohol is. And she's like, here are wine coolers. I don't know why they're obsessed with wine coolers.
I know. What even is a wine cooler?
Hunter and I looked this up last night. A wine cooler is anything that's like a Smirnoff Ice, a Mike's Hard, like
Oh.
a kind of lower alcohol percentage, like sissy drink, essentially, is what we're
Got
going
it. Got
for.
it. Okay.
Yeah. One of my first drinks ever was a Mike's Hard, actually.
Me too. Because you could drink those at like graduation parties and no one would notice. They are. It's like the Angry Orchard. It's similar.
Yeah. Yeah. So.
Which, by the way, when Mom hears this, there were some Angry Orchards that genuinely went missing one time.
That's not valid.
No, and she thought it was me, and she came to me and asked me, and I was like, I swear I didn't.
Are you sure?
No, I know I did one time, but I think it was another time that she asked, and like I actually hadn't done it.
The blamed by sexuality plot is actually pretty entertaining because
Yeah,
that doesn't happen very often.
I know. I totally agree. Well, I also love how it turns into a plot too about how Rachel is going to have a long line of boyfriends that end up being gay. Yeah. It was just the way that Kurt explains it to her too is again very inside baseball.
Yes.
Like it feels like it was made for us the way that it's explained.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when do you ever see that represented? Like it is some like very like specific gay guy cis girl dynamics. Yeah, which I love. I mean, Kurt and Rachel have like a super convoluted friendship, but I also feel that it's kind of accurate in its like competitiveness. Like they love each other, they're competitive with each other, but they also know that they're different enough as people that like they're not actually up for the same things, really.
Yeah. They're just both divas.
Yeah, they're just both divas, and they appreciate each other for that, but they also fear each other for that a little bit.
Yeah. There's a Kesha number. They throw up on stage. The principal thinks it was a theatrical illusion. Also, it was a fun episode.
I do have a qualm. Okay, if they're having a party and then you wouldn't have the party on a school night, though. Why are you hungover the next day? Like,
yeah,
you know what I mean?
I don't know.
Like that doesn't.
No,
make
she
sense.
said they said that the party was on a Saturday night, and then they were hungover all of Sunday, and then they were at school on Monday.
You're not hungover that long.
When you're a teenager, especially, you're not.
No, you might not even be hungover at all. Like it's.
Yeah.
And then they like shoehorn in this whole thing of like Will getting drunk and like he like tells them he's gonna be sober. And then Santana is like, if you don't drink, what else do you have to live for?
Yeah.
Oh, it's funny.
Season 2, episode 18, Born This Way, aired on April 26, 2011. Finn accidentally breaks Rachel's nose during dance rehearsals, and a doctor suggests she get a nose job. Santana, a closeted lesbian, runs for prom queen in the hopes of winning the love of her best friend, Brittany Pierce. She also realizes that popular jock Dave Karkovsky is also in the closet. Karofsky is also in the closet and threatens to out him unless he stops bullying Kurt. Santana later teams up with Karofsky to get the prom queen crown. Emma seeks help for her OCD.
You can buy a hair if it won't grow. That's what I was going to say.
Yes.
So, lots of racism towards Asian people in this episode.
Yes.
A lot.
Yes.
It does get called out, but we were in that weird phase where like that was the thing to do in a script.
Yeah.
Like a character would be openly racist as a joke, and then the person being insulted would say, that's really racist, and then everyone would shake it off. Like that. Yeah. That's what happens. Rachel considers getting a nose job, which I don't really think her character ever would, but at least the situation was that her nose got broken and then the doctor suggested it. It wasn't like, I'm going to get a nose job, like out of nowhere.
Yeah. It was very much suggested to her, and it was framed to her in a way of like, it might make your voice better. I think that the way that Puck like very earnestly tells her,
he's not the one. Like just his character's Jewish, so that's why he's the one. But
I liked that he was like, these girls go away and get nose jobs and then they come back and they're just less hot.
Yeah.
I enjoyed that. But also the fact that they go to the mall and they sing Barbra Streisand.
I hate that. I'm like,
I had to clock out.
Also, it makes no sense because there's so many good Barbara songs that he could sing to inspire her. Like, that's not, but it was because that song just so happened to be popular at the time. But like, what he would actually do is sing like a Barbara song with her. Yeah, that was stupid. I think they just wanted to do a flash mob.
And they did it. My other highlights of this episode, and really why I wanted to do it, is just because there is nothing more 2011 than a bunch of fake high schoolers in like H&M ass t-shirts with their minority identities written on their chests. And it's even more 2011 because it's not really even
minority
accurate all the way.
Some of the shirts are really funny because they're like not issues. I do, of course, I live for Kurt Hummel singing Born This Way. Like, he's so...
I know.
He's so cute.
I also live for him because he transfers back to McKinley in this episode. And I live for him singing this, like, drawn-out ass ballad from Sunset Boulevard. It just is accurate to who he is.
I wrote a note about that. I said... No one has ever treasured going back to a shitty high school as much as Kurt Hummel. I need to get into my Sunset Boulevard gig. Hold on. Because that song was good.
Yes. I sang that song in a voice lesson at one point, which is why I know that it's from Sunset Boulevard.
Also, I actually love their cover of Somewhere Only We Know. I like that cover. I also, in this episode, noticed how Finn... he just doesn't act like a high school boy. Like, a high school boy doesn't have access to this level of like schmaltz and like appreciate you as you are type shit, because he like shows, we're not even talking about the whole Lucy Caboosey thing.
Oh my god, there's so much that happens in all of this.
Yeah, like basically Quinn, so Rachel is potentially modeling her new nose after Quinn's nose, and then this other character whose name I forget plots against Quinn because she's new at this point. But there's this whole thing where she like exposes the fact that Quinn used to be heavier and like less attractive in middle school. Coming from that character, it's just like that character is very interesting to me.
Her name is Lauren. Mm-hmm. I think there's a part of it that's like, I'm not ashamed of who I am.
So
and instead of and like wanting to like humble her, I guess.
Yeah.
But it's almost like you think that how you looked is so bad, that means that you must think that I look really bad, and thusly I'm going to humble you. Even if Lauren does not know that that is what her logic is, that is kind of what her logic is.
Yeah, because her character is like very confident, like outwardly very much about herself, and like she wants to win prom queen or homecoming queen or whatever, and that's what this whole thing is about. Mm-hmm. It's very convoluted, but I hate it when shows put fat suits or bad, bad acne makeup or glasses on pretty girls that are very conventionally attractive, and then they do the same thing in Friends with Courtney Cox's character. And it's like, it just doesn't work. Why do it? Especially when you've got real representation on the show. Like, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah. Like, I wasn't offended by it. I was just like...
It wasn't the worst example of it that I've seen.
Yeah, like, it could have been a lot worse, I guess.
But then they had that moment where there was, like, 3 bigger girls, like, looking at her old picture.
Oh, yeah.
And they were like, we'll vote for you. Like, it had, like, a reverse effect, essentially. Like, Lauren was trying to get... people to not vote for her because of what she used to look like, but then these 3 girls are like, well, and they're all dressed the same, and I don't know why.
That was really weird.
And actually, one of those girls ended up being the lead in Dumplin', that movie a few years ago.
Oh, wow.
And that's not even all the plots in that episode.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
It
is dense.
Yeah.
What's the other one?
Glee is a dense text. Just the whole thing of Santana convincing Karofsky. We did mention it a little bit.
Oh my God.
Being like, we're going to be each other's beards. so that Kurt will come back and something. I don't know.
Yeah, or like Santana dating Karofsky will like sedate him in a way, and that would make Kurt. I keep saying Kirk. That would make Kurt come back.
Yeah, something like that. But then, okay, good example of the villain sitting in the audience thing. At the very end of this episode, when they're singing Born This Way, Santana and Karofsky are out in the audience, and Santana has on her shirt that says Lebanese, and she's just like pouting.
Yeah.
It's like, why are they sitting in the audience? They wouldn't be there. Well, she might be there. He wouldn't be there.
But he wouldn't be.
Quick note on Lea Michele's performance style. She's gonna squeeze those tears out.
Yeah.
Any possible time she can. She does the exact same thing. Like
yes. She's also gonna like look off to the
95%.
side. Yeah.
It works for me. I think it's, it's very melodramatic, but it does, when you watch it all back to back, it's like, girl, find a new method or something.
Yeah. It's an old standby, though. I appreciate it.
They pretty much all do the same thing. They all have their own go-tos.
Yes.
But hers is just so specific that you can't unsee it.
On Artie being in a wheelchair the whole time, just vibing. That man does not need a wheelchair. There's not much to say other than that.
No. And the shit that they do, I actually made a meme about this already, but the shit that they do with him in the wheelchair is just, you couldn't do if the actor actually was in
Wheeling
a
into
wheelchair.
the pool.
Wheeling into the pool.
Yeah.
Just a lot of kind of physical comedy with the wheelchair that you couldn't do had the person really needed the wheelchair. And later on, we didn't even talk about the Glee project, but later on there are cast members in the show who were casted based off of the Glee project. Ali Stroker is one of those people who actually is in a wheelchair. So they got to a point where they had some real wheelchair representation, and she's been on Broadway and she's done all the things. She was in a recent production of Oklahoma.
Oh, yeah. She was,
Nessa's just in a wheelchair. So, like, that would be a good role for her. But
I didn't fall asleep last night until 2 a.m. And one of the things keeping me up was thinking about, is the character of Nessa Rose from Wicked ableist? Because her whole thing is that she's, like, able to walk when she puts on the ruby slippers, right?
I honestly don't remember. I don't remember the plot enough.
I think that's it. And then I was like, is that bad?
Nessa.
Anyway.
Oh, Nessa, I have something to confess, a reason why.
I was thinking about that last night, too. I was thinking, seems so unfair. We should go on a spree. And not she.
Yeah, that part's good.
I know. I can't wait to see Ariana Grande do that. I am so fucking excited to see Wicked.
The vocals.
I'm like, do I know it's probably going to be bad?
Yes.
But am I hype? Yes.
Yeah, I am. Because if anybody, unfortunately, yes, they're doing a Tom Hooper method, but there are no two people more equipped on the planet to do it. And I know they wouldn't do it if it was fucked up, because they know so much about voices and production and all these things that I trust them with that. Whereas I never trusted any of the other bitches.
Not Tom Hooper.
They usually were just actors. Like, rarely were they fully singers, the people were casted. So
yes,
I'm scared, but I'm excited.
Yes, agreed.
And of course, like, I'm gonna live. Like, it's Ariana Grande. Like, I'm gonna live. Even if she's terrible.
Live.
Even if her acting is bottom tier, the vocal and like the looks will be good enough to sustain me.
I still think it's so absurd that they turned it into 2 movies, but whatever.
Can't wait to leave the theater after Defying Gravity.
Same. I'm so hyped.
We're not going to go too in detail on this one. I just want to note it because it's important in the Glee timeline. Season 3, episode 22, Goodbye, aired May 22nd, 2012. Kurt and Blaine decide to remain a couple even though they'll be in different cities in the fall. Mercedes is offered a recording contract as a backup singer and will move to Los Angeles, while Mike accepts a scholarship to the Joffrey Ballet School in Chicago. Santana is upset by these revelations because she has a cheerleading scholarship from the University of Louisville and wants to be a performer like them. Brittany also announces that she won't be graduating. Finn takes Rachel to the train station to board a train to New York City so she can attend NIADA. Her dads are waiting for her there to help her choose why are we talking about the logistics?
Choose a dorm room as if you get like any sense of control.
This episode is important because, as I said in the first half, it is, to me, the ending of Glee. This is like BC. And then everything else is AD.
That's so accurate.
Because it is the wrap up of the plots of every graduating character, theoretically. Like at the end of season 3, you don't actually know that they will be returning in the next season.
Yeah.
And it kind of feels like they didn't know either. Like that they hadn't fully decided that we were going to split the show in half from here on out, which is half New York, half Lima. And it's really dumb that they did that because I understand why they did it, but they shot themselves in the foot in terms of the new kids. You're never going to care. You're never going to care as much as you need to about the new kids. And you're always going to be dwelling on irrelevant plots with the people who have graduated.
It's also crazy because it goes on for 6 seasons and it does,
and this is
genuinely
halfway through the show.
It's only halfway through.
Yes. And season 4, it's kind of like, okay, this is fun new territory, expanding the world of the show. Like I'm not mad that they're still here because these are the characters we love and care about the relationships, but like honestly, couldn't Glee have just literally no longer been about Glee and still be called Glee? I don't know.
Yeah. I think like if I'm in McKinley High and like Kurt isn't there as a student, like I don't want to be there. I don't want to be there.
It's and it creates huge issues because the writers are constantly having to think of reasons as to why the original cast would go back to the school. If you see this many graduated alumni in your theater department, there is a major issue going on.
Like something is wrong.
There are crimes being committed somewhere.
There's some Stockholm syndrome that has not fully worn off yet. The first 3 to 5 years after you what?
You don't act on those feelings.
Right. Well, that's what I was about to say. Is like the first 3 to 5 years after you graduate high school, like you do not go back. No. Especially with our high school, it's like with drama club and with show choir and stuff, like it was so easy. It was so easy to achieve levels of notoriety that could then be completely shattered by looking like you haven't moved on. Mm-hmm. So it was like you had to be the fuck out of there. And then maybe when you're older, you can come back. Like when we were doing the documentary, I felt comfortable being back there because none of the kids that were in the group I went to high school with.
Same, but by 1 year. So like it was closer for me, but that's because it was my senior thesis. So I was only 3 years out at the time. Yeah. Which was a little bit Glee of me.
That was a little brave.
That was a little bit of, that was a Glee move. But I didn't have, I wasn't a favorite. So it didn't have that ring of desperation to it.
That's so true.
It had the ring of, because it is a really good, it is a really juicy and dense topic. I just genuinely wanted to cover it. That was it. There's no train that goes from there to there. Sorry.
Lima to New York, I wish.
There's no train.
Think of the amount of connections that would need.
Why doesn't she just go to the airport? Why'd they make it a train? Just for drama?
For drama, for sure.
I'm like, this is not a thing. And then everybody shows up. Okay, mind you, these two are engaged there's a lot of teen engagement going on. I don't know why.
I know.
These two are engaged.
I guess
they think that they are going to go get married. And then he pulls out the 1-2 punch in the car. He just tells her, you're going to New York without me, and I'm joining the military because I need to redeem my father's reputation or
legacy.
Something. Yeah, and you need to go be a star in New York. And what am I going to do in New York? Which, valid. I mean,
straight guys just need more time to cook a lot of the time, especially if they haven't left their hometowns. That's what I will say.
Yeah, point is, this episode, to me, is the end of Glee. Everything that happens after this is a fever dream, okay? And it's also a lot of Leah Michelle wish fulfillment. They spend a lot of time giving her, like, building out sets for her to live personal fantasies, which is just... No wonder she's delusional. Like,
I know. That actually reminds me, because I was watching a bunch of like behind the scenes videos today, and they had like a little featurette from the first time that Glee shot in New York, and there were like little just like standing around interviews of each cast person by like the TKTS booth in Times Square, and Leah was like, over there on 54th and Broadway, I used to work there. She's like pointing at all these places, and she's like, I know Rachel Berry is just living her dream, and Rachel has become so much of me that I'm living my dream too. And I'm like, they're one and the same at this point.
They're the same.
Yeah, they're the same. This is not a personal attack on our boy Corey, but like Finn is like my least favorite character.
I can understand that because he is so rarely put in a true position of vulnerability.
Yeah.
He's so often the hero. He's so often the one who you're supposed to put on a pedestal because he is a white jock who's popular, who also happens to be okay with being in Homo Explosion. But like... I don't feel bad for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, there's no reason to feel bad for him.
He does volunteer and thrive in Homo Explosion. You're so right. Yeah. I also feel like there are moments with all the other characters where you like truly see them crack. And I feel like his version of cracking is just like saying things that are honest. Like he never like loses it. Where was his plot supposed to go?
I can tell, and maybe I even heard it somewhere, but you can tell that they gave Finn's storyline to Sam.
Oh, because he takes over the Glee Club? Yeah. Season 4, Episode 4, The Breakup, aired on October 4th, 2012. When Finn returns to Rachel unexpectedly, it causes their relationship to shake due to Rachel and Brody's developing friendship while Finn was in the army. Meanwhile, in Lima, Blaine misses Kurt and feels left behind, causing him to act in an insensible manner. But then he also shows up in New York.
Like, they probably made some kind of rule for themselves where they're like, we can't have an episode that takes place entirely in the high school or entirely in New York.
Yeah.
Like, it's always this weird blend. But truly, the only things that matter in this episode are the things that take place with old characters. But technically, Marley and What's-His-Face and Kitty and the new characters are in this episode too.
Yeah. I could not bring myself to give a shit.
There were like very, very short glimmers of hope for those characters sometimes. Like if you actually watch their stories play out, but they never got enough time to be as big as who was there before. I mean, they were set up to fail.
I like literally think I skipped over the parts with the new people when I was watching yesterday.
It's that bad. Like, it's not right. That's not what we don't care to see them. Like, sorry.
No.
This is the part when I say I don't want you. Sorry, I've been at Pride for too long.
You're living in a Pride festival. You can't help it.
Yeah. The Bushwick apartment, the infamous Bushwick apartment that is 5,000 square feet and not attainable for these children. Like,
yeah,
obviously,
they talk shit about it constantly.
Yeah, I'm like, you guys gotta stop. You don't know. Yeah. Barely Breathing is in this episode. What's it called? Don't Speak. That's in this episode. Like, Teenage Dream Reprise is in this episode.
A live performance.
Yes. And he's like crying because he's so stressed that he poked a man on Facebook. Which was so real. When they cut to him in the choir room and he like deliberately decided, because he's lonely, decided that he was going to poke a gay man on Facebook. I'm like, that's so real. We used to poking used to mean something.
That's like the grinder ping of 2012.
Yes. And then immediately the guy messages him and is like, "What's up, sexy?" And I'm like, no, I feel like it was like that.
Yeah,
that
for sure. We'd have to check in with our gays of that era. The ones who were like in college or something.
One tiny thing.
Yeah.
Rachel Berry ordering a virgin amaretto salad.
I know. She's like, they're actually really good.
She was like, they're so good. I'm like, girl, it's virgin though. Like you're not like
you're not a city slicker
special.
Diva. Yeah.
Like, I don't know.
I will say this episode does a really good job of documenting like that awkward fuckery that happens with relationships when you start in college and not the same age. And that even applies to like, it's romantic relationships, but it can even be friendships too. Just like the manufactured giant jump in maturity between high school senior and college freshman can really mess things up. Even though,
it makes,
again, it's so manufactured. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, you are in every way the same person that you were 5 months ago when you were in high school.
Or, I mean, you're evolving.
You're evolving. But, like, there's, like, a superiority complex that can come really fast that you haven't actually, like, earned. Like, it's, like, an unearned maturity thing.
It's, like, it's the quote-unquote living on your own part of it. Even though it's, like, okay, I don't really miss this, but do you ever think about, like, a dining hall? You're like, I can't believe that it used to be that easy.
I think about them probably once a week.
Like, do you remember Kimmel sandwiches?
I never got the sandwiches because I was so obsessed with the chicken tenders and the salads also. The breakup. Every couple possible breaks up in this episode.
And
including the teachers.
It's all amazing.
Yeah.
Like the Santana performance of Mine by Taylor Swift.
Oh, get into it.
Bitch.
That was one of those realistic things too. Like,
I know.
Where it's like, no, because someone that age would sing this song. Like, it's finally like a realistic choice.
Yeah.
Kind of like I forgot to say this, in the pilot, Rachel sings On My Own as her audition song. And I'm like, yes, that's realism.
Yes.
Thank you.
Art imitates life and life imitates art.
Yeah.
Santana just like bringing this like odd amount of depth to Mine by Taylor Swift, and you're like, oh my god. Like, I remember when I watched that the first time, like that really stood out to me. There's a lot of standout moments in this episode, like the Teenage Dream emo version, singing Mine, and then, I mean, the You Were My First Love speech. Rachel Berry monologue.
That came from a real place. Also,
were they breaking up though?
What was I gonna say? Oh, just side note. You will never hear a more belligerent cover of Give Your Heart a Break in your life.
Yeah, you're right.
What in the world? Why are they screaming at me? But no, they weren't breaking up, but just like if you had to simulate a breakup with your actual boyfriend, it would be easier to do. What I am saying is like, the part where she's talking about like, you were the first boy who made me feel seen. Yeah. I think that might be true for her and Corey Monteith, and that's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, because all the other cute boys in her life were gay until him.
Yeah.
The first time I watched that episode, I was like pretty stoned because I was in my CBD THC edible before passing the fuck out phase when I had insomnia really bad. And I watched that monologue and I was like so moved. And then I went and got Josh and I was like, you gotta watch this shit, and like rewound it. And even watching it completely not stoned, I'm like, that is good.
Yeah.
She does such a good job. I also still love that there's moments where she's like, no matter how rich and famous and powerful I might become.
I love the I mean, hey, the confidence, that's that's half the battle, maybe more than half the battle. So
it's so true.
Like, good for you.
This episode is really good.
Yeah, mostly because like when you're watching the rest of it, it's like, can something happen, please? Like, I'm bored. So the fact that you're getting like 10 plot points in one episode makes it very notable. When Emma starts singing in the like non-diegetic version of The Scientist, I'm like, huh? But then like I was like, so now she's gonna sing too. You know, she was just itching to sing. That actress was like, I'm on the singing show and I never get to sing.
I know. Can you imitate her voice?
I don't remember what her line was or anything.
She talks so weird.
Yeah. To me though, her and Will, well, me and Hunter do imitate her saying Will, because she goes like, Will.
Yeah.
Will. I don't like her though. Her eyes freak me out. She freaks me out.
Yeah, I'm not really a fan either.
Finn was imagining Emma singing also.
So, you know, when they leave the bar, it's like the two couples and they're breaking up. And first of all, when Blaine tells Kurt about the fact that he cheated on him, and you just look at Kurt and it's like flushed, tears welling up, I'm like, oh my god, like, we're there. And that acting is like so good, and then it just smash cuts to like, you and me, we used to be. It's like so loud and so bad, like that pickup of the line.
It's not bad. It's really good.
It's okay. No, it's good, but the integration of it into the scene is very heavy-handed.
Well, very rarely do they do well with the scene transitions.
That's
it's
true.
Usually not. It's almost never a good transition.
Yeah, that's true. Okay.
Finale.
Reading all of this is actually worth it because it does tie up everyone's loose ends. Yeah, I'll try my best. Okay. Finale, Dreams Come True, aired on March 20th, 2015. Here are the highlights. It is announced to Mr. Shu that McKinley High is now going to be a performing arts school and he's going to be the principal. Secondly, Mercedes is now opening for Beyonce on tour. Thirdly, Sue Sylvester is the vice president of the United States under Jeb Bush, which is really funny. And she intends to run in 2024, to which I say, I wish that she was running in 2024. Jesus Christ. And then, so there's like some time frame jumping around. In 2020, Kurt and Blaine go to literally the Harvey Milk Elementary School to be like, yay, children. And then
they what was the thing? It was like they are starring together in their production of Who's Afraid of, the first LGBTQ production of Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf.
No, it was actually Jane Austen Sings.
Well, that's what Leah is in.
Yes, it's the LGBTQ production of Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf, which is like so written by a gay person. Like, it's just so good. Rachel Berry is married to Jonathan Groff.
Which is what she wants. Like, that's what Leah wanted for her life, and she couldn't get it. And so now we're doing wish fulfillment.
I know, and good for her, honestly. Artie and Tina are a couple. Rachel, this is the least believable thing of all time, that
Agreed.
Rachel is the surrogate for Blaine and Kurt's baby, as if she would ever sacrifice her body like that. And she wins a Tony. And during her Tony acceptance speech, she thanks Will Schuester for being a good teacher. And then in fall of 2020, Sue Sylvester rededicates the McKinley High School auditorium to be named in honor of Finn, which is very sweet.
Yeah.
And she apologizes
She's
for
like not
having
even
been,
acting.
I know. She apologizes for having been a hater of the Glee Club, and then New Directions members from throughout its history unite for one last massive group song. The last shot of the series is of 3 plaques: the rededication plaque for the auditorium and the memorial ones for former Glee Club director Lillian Adler and Finn Hudson.
It's a lot. And like, I had seen this episode and literally I was watching it and I was like, this is so crazy. This is a crazy episode.
I wrote down, oh my God, this is scary.
Yeah.
One of the points.
And it starts actually with the current day New Directions at their show choir competition championship. And for some reason, Rachel and Kurt and Blaine are there. I think they're co-directing at the time. I think that's what's going on.
As if that would have like any level of peace within as a team.
Right. Like what? Also, Rachel would never do that.
I know.
Not like, but they like force her into a downfall, and I forget, like post Funny Girl.
It's because she has a TV show that flops.
Yeah. They make her go Hollywood, all this shit. It is, what do they call it? Fan service. It is.
Yes.
It is everything, and it literally in every possible way, fan service. Like not one person doesn't fulfill a dream. But like Mercedes, I'm opening for Beyonce. No, you're not. But sure.
But then she does.
But sure.
Amber Riley is so talented though.
Oh, I know. Like it's not unwarranted to her talent. It's just like Beyonce doesn't even have opening acts. Like,
right.
Like it's just like not, why choose Beyonce of all people? But that's like that is the dream fulfillment. So
yeah.
Yeah. Also, Blaine and Kurt are married at this time. There's an episode, like they have their wedding episode that is shown in the season. But I forgot that. I'm like, why are people married? Like you are not even out of college.
So young. Yeah.
What are you doing?
Because it's all wish fulfillment, like the whole thing.
I really unexpectedly lived for that rendition of Winner Takes It All.
Well, the thing is with
because
Jane
they're
Lynch
like
is
not acting anymore. She's just like being silly.
No. And the thing with Jane Lynch is like she's been on Broadway. Like she knows how to do shit. Let me see. Oh, the Andrew Rannells cameo was really funny.
Yeah,
to me.
that was good. Anne Hathaway in her one-woman show. Anne! Exclamation point.
Yeah, that was funny. I also thought, back to the Mercedes thing, like, of course there has to be like a gospel choir step touching. Like, what are we doing here, people?
It is authentic to her because she did grow up in the church. So, like, I get, like, why that would be her ideal way to go out because that's where she started. What I didn't like about the Mercedes goodbye is, why did it look like she was dying? Like, why was I know. Why was it a Walk Into the Light Rent style? Why was it?
I know.
Like, what? And she was like, don't come up. I'm like, did she have COVID or something? Like, why did they write in for her to say, don't come up here, I'll cry?
Yeah.
It's like,
yeah. I did write down this belabored goodbye.
Maybe what it was is they weren't there at the same time.
That honestly could be it.
So she was just acting to no one and was like, don't come up here.
Okay, I think you would know this, but I don't know this. Why are there boys in Dalton uniforms in the choir room?
What do you think?
That the Dalton choir got deleted and so
Merger.
Wait, merger of the schools or of the Glee clubs?
Don't remember, but there is a merger.
That is so stupid.
Yeah, it's
the
really
way you
dumb.
cut me off to say merger is so funny.
These people transfer schools like it's easy. Like it's not that easy to do.
No, it's not.
You know who they could have had? Which I don't even know. Was she in the finale? Was Quinn even there?
No.
Yeah, Quinn would do it.
Because also that would make sense because Quinn has had a baby before.
Yeah, Quinn would do it. Yeah, I think that makes sense.
You're not allowed to be a surrogate if you haven't had a baby before. At least if you do it through an agency. Fun fact. I
Why
know that
were you
'cause
looking for some cash?
Adam told me, my friend who is gay and married and looking to have a child. Everything being placed in fall 2020 is just really weird.
I know,
because like we were in the thick of it at that point with COVID,
and you just couldn't know that. Yeah, and like the political predictions weren't that far off. Yeah, I don't know. It's not a disappointing end. I think it hits the points you think it's going to. It's not amazing.
Yeah.
You're not going to be floored, but it got the job done.
I think you're right, and not to be a downer, but like the tea of it all is that if Finn had been there, it would have really slapped.
Yeah.
But because he wasn't, it was like Sam getting his plot line doesn't hit. And also like Jesse St. James coming back, like, do we love that because we love him? Yes, but like but
it's not that's just not what it's supposed to be.
It's not supposed to be that, yeah.
But that's just what happens in real life.
Yeah.
So
Glee is so suspended from reality that for something that real to have happened, just feels weird.
It's so out of step with the show that like that's why like like we didn't want to cover the quarterback the episode because that episode admittedly, like that in Kevin and Jenna's podcast, they're like, no one was okay. No one really wanted to be making it, but we also, it's kind of like they knew they needed to if the show was to continue, which they did have some like group talks about. It's like, do we want to like, what do we want to do? And so they knew they were going to have to get over that hump in order to finish it. And so they were like, Corey would want us to continue. So they did. But like that episode is not a walk in the park whatsoever because the emotions are really real. And that isn't, it just feels bad. It's like, these are young people. Like,
it's just so weird that so much tragedy has happened like around Glee because the show is so silly.
Yeah.
And so lighthearted. In its core. Technically, of this iteration of this current life we're living in, Sleepover Cinema wise, this was our last analysis episode.
Woo!
Isn't that weird?
It's
but
exciting.
We did go deep. I know. We did go deep into something we've been wanting to do for a long time. So I'm happy about that. Yeah, so that's the tea. Any other things about Glee you want to say?
I mean, we're not experts on Glee. I have actually watched it all, so...
Yeah. That honestly kind of makes you an expert.
Most people can't say that.
Yeah. That makes you an expert, I would say.
Right. And, like, we have to, like, be critical and all that, but, like, genuinely, as I said, I'm a Cancer. I'm a simple girl. You put a good, a good number in front of me with some character plot relevance, like... it's gonna get me at some point. There's a lot of like kind of boring songs in Glee. There's a lot of like skips just because the density is so high. I mean, they cannot all be good, but when they are good, they're amazing. So
agreed.
That's my main takeaway. You would never regret watching Glee. Like,
no,
ever.
You really don't regret watching Glee. That is such a good way to describe it.
Everyone's gonna react differently to it, but it is entertainment.
It is. Agreed.
So, as always, you can find more from us at evergreenpodcast.com/sleepover-cinema and keep up with our latest creative projects at tupangproductions.com. We're on Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube at Sleepover Cinema and post a full video version of each episode on YouTube every Thursday. You can follow me, Audrey, at Audrey A. Leach on everything.
And you can follow me, Hannah, at Real Judy Garland on Instagram. And if you have not yet joined our Discord server, it is not too late. And the link is in our episode description, and you are invited to join us. And if you love Sleepover Cinema, it's also not too late to send an episode or two to a friend, a loved one, etc. And leave us a kind review on Apple Podcasts, because the girls always deserve validation.
Sleepover Cinema is a production of Evergreen Podcasts, produced, edited, and engineered by us, Hannah and Audrey Leach. Sleepover Cinema is mixed by Sean Rule Hoffman with theme music by Josh Perlman Hall. Executive producer is Michael D'Aloia.
And that's what you missed on Glee.